crafty friends. In today's video tutorial, I have a fun technique to share with you. It's called the spotlight technique. Let me show you a card front that I had sitting on my desk. I made it a couple of months ago and I've been wanting to do a video on it, but just haven't had the time, and other things have been getting in the way. It's called the spotlight technique and I can't wait to show you how I did it. Let me turn the camera down and we'll get started. All right. So this is the card front that I had made, like I said, 2 months ago. And we'll be doing something similar, but a little different. It's I used the Daisy Garden background stamp. And in this card front, I used the stitched rectangle dies. But today, I'm going to be using the layering circle dies. And I've already got 2 here. And I'm going to show you what I did here. I actually saved some paper by cutting out the black and the white from here. So let me show you how I did that. I'll put this aside. First, we're going to stamp our image on basic white. And what you'll need here is I have a piece of basic white cardstock. It's cut at 8.5 inches by 5 inches and scored at 4 1/4. I have basic black, which is cut at 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then the basic white that I've here in my Stamparatus is cut at 3 3/4 by 5 inches. Now you can also leave this bigger and then cut it down as you wish. I chose to just cut it down already. And I have my basic white on here with glue dots because this stamp is a background stamp, so it takes up the whole piece of paper, the basic white paper, so I won't have room to put my magnet down. The magnet is holding the grid paper down, which I have underneath here to protect my Stamparatus. So, and we'll be using Stays On ink because we'll be coloring with our watercolor pencils, and I have Old Olive, Daffodil Delight, and Melon Mambo. And this comes, those 3 watercolor pencils come from assortment 1, which has Real Red, Cajun Craze, Pumpkin Pie, Daffodil Delight, Old Olive, Bermuda Bay, Pacific Point, Rich Razzleberry, Melon Mambo, Early Espresso, and then your neutrals, Basic Gray, Basic Black, and Whisper White. Another assortment, which is assortment 2, has Cherry Cobbler, Flirty Flamingo, Cajun Craze, Crushed Curry, Granny Apple Green, Garden Green, Coastal Cabana, Balmy Blue, Night of Navy, and Gorgeous Grape. Actually, this is Calypso Coral. I called that Cajun Craze. My mistake. Sorry about that. So we'll be using those to watercolor our image. So let's start by stamping it. And although the stamp does fit on clear block F, as you can see, it fits completely on there. The reason we're using the Stamparatus today is because it is such a big stamp, it may not get a full impression on my basic white that I have laid down. So that allows me to stamp a couple of times without moving the paper. And I like to keep a stamp case underneath so it gives me leverage when I ink my stamp. All right, let's start by inking the stamp. And you want to get it nice and complete. Go over it a few times. Make sure you press in there. And if I don't get it the first time, I have it in the Stamparatus so we can stamp it again. And then I have this little handy tool that I made myself. You can get something similar like this on Etsy. I have seen other demonstrators using, I think it's called a Chucky tool. I just put furniture pads on an empty jar here, and then and you don't need this. You can press with your hands. I like to do this because it allows me to go back and forth, giving me a better impression, hopefully. And like I said, if you don't get a better impression, you can always stamp again. See, I missed some parts there, so I probably didn't ink this as well. So we'll go back, ink the whole image again, because otherwise, if you don't do that, you may get lines on your paper, and you don't want lines. And I may have to do that a couple of times, but I'm going to press harder in the center part where I missed. And looking at this, I may have there's like a grid on this. I may have that upside down. I'm not sure. I never know if it goes up or down. But we'll try this, see what happens. Much better. Got a little bit still down here. Let me just see if I can get that. Yes, perfect. I think I got it all. All right, good. So now I want to clean this right away, because otherwise, with the stays on, because it's a solvent ink or pigment ink, it does stain your stamps and your fingers. So I want to clean this right away. Get it as best I could. And I could use a toothbrush, or, you know, there's also the Stampin' Scrub, but I find it a little cumbersome to use on these bigger stamps because you can't get in there with your hand to do that. So that's why I find this is much better to clean with. Just get it as good as I can. And then later I'll finish cleaning this. I don't think you need to see me wiping every nook and cranny of my stamp. All right. Let me just spray my hands a little with a little sanitizer so that I don't get my, if I do have any remaining ink on my fingers, it doesn't get all over my card base. Okay, so we'll lift that up. And if I failed to mention, I do have this on here with glue dots. And I put 3 on the back. So we're done with that. We'll set that aside. This here. So next, what I want to do is I want to cut the circle out of here and decide which one I want to spotlight. Now I like this one here because it's got a little bit of the leaves. It has the a full daisy, and then, you know, a partial of the daisy. So I'm going to cut that right out of here, and we'll bring our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine here. And to save time, I'm also going to die cut from the center of this, but first I want to run that. I'm using the Time Worn Type 3D embossing folder. I want to emboss this before I cut it, before I die cut it. And when you're using the 3D folders, you need plate 1, your embossing folder. Make sure the hinge is facing the way that it's going to go into the Stampin' Cut and Emboss, and then plate number 4. And you just run it through. It's nice and tight. And then I'll replace plate number 4. I'll put plate number 2, one plate number 3, and then I have the other plate number 3 is set aside here. Take this out. And we're going to die cut the circle out of here. Now this is going to go on the card base, and then this will go on top. So you're not going to see, you're only going to see a little bit of the black, the basic black. So you can cut it from, I like to just cut it from the center. Nobody will see that, I don't think. So, all right, so let's try this. Our basic black down, just center that there. And I want to cut both of these at the same time. That there. This one here. Set that on the area that I want cut out. So then we'll put our second. My plates are so warped. But when I put the paper down and then put the plate on top, it moves where I initially started it. So let's try this. Right. See how we did. That's good. This is good. And this should be good as well. No, we stuck on here because I didn't take the glue dots off. All right. So we'll set this aside. We're done with that. All right, now we can do the fun part. So let's color this image here. Let me take off this glue dot, otherwise it's going to stick to my paper, my grid paper, which I don't want it to do. All right, and I'm going to zoom in just a little so you can see how I'm coloring this. All right, so first I'm going to take the lightest color, and I want to go on the inside of the flower. And you can start to color, and then if you want to make it darker, go back after you've used the blender pen and just color again. Adding some color. And I'm using the blender pens to soften up the colors, because right now they're sort of harsh, and this allows me to blend out the color to the areas that I did not add a color to, if that makes sense. Just blending it out, and I'm going to go back in with my Daffodil Delight, just add a little more color down here, make it a little deeper, a little darker. Go back and blend out. And I like to start with the lightest color first, and you just wipe it on your paper till it doesn't show any more color. And then we can go to our next color. And I will be using Melon Mambo. Again, just adding color. You can do heavy, you can go light. Use whatever you know, if you like it lighter, if you like it darker, in areas where maybe it is darker. And you don't have to color in the whole flower petals, because once you use the blender pen, that will blend it out for you. And that's what's nice about the blender pen. You can also use the aqua painters for this. I chose to just use the blender pen because the aqua painters do add more water, and I didn't want to have to wait for it to dry. So that's why I chose the blender pens. I did notice one thing though. I forgot to, and I'll use the early espresso for that, to do the stem part of the flower. So let me pull that out before I forget. The early espresso can be found in assortment 1. Which one is it? Yes. Set that here. All right, let's do the Melon Mambo. And you see how that's giving color now to the rest of the petals. It's softening it up. And in areas where I was a little heavier with my hand, it's darker. Did you all know that July is watercolor month? Yeah, that's right, it is. I think there's a month for every type of occasion. I don't know who created them, but somebody did. So last week I showed you how I watercolored a beach type, you know, yeah, beach, I guess it's a beach, waterfront type image. With the palm trees, like an island type image, I guess, is more what I'm looking for, the word. All right, we're almost done with the Melon Mambo. Just a little bit more down here. And then we can go on to the Old Olive. And again, clean my brush, especially with the red. Good, there wasn't that much on there. And I have Old Olive. I'll do the leaves. Just add a little color. And then let the blender brush do the rest. Especially in these small areas, which I can barely see with my eyes without sticking my head in front of the camera. It can be sharpened with just like any pencil. With the basic pencil sharpener, which this one looks like it needs to be sharpened, but we'll do that after. Just a little more color. And you know, you see I'm not being very neat about it, because once you use the blender pen, it will soften up the color for you. You can go in, you know, if you didn't get enough on it, go back and deepen up that color. And really, if I get any on the stem, It's not such a big deal because it's early espresso, so it would just cover it up anyway. Especially over here in this corner, it seems. I can't tell what are the leaves and what are the stems. So I'm just not going to worry about that. Seems like this side of my brush is a little dry. Let me use the other side. The other thing you want to be careful with is not to constantly go over the same areas, because it will start ripping the paper. It'll start pilling. You don't want that. Definitely don't want that. All right, doesn't that look so pretty though? The image that I did previously, on this one, I used the Stampin' Up markers, and I used the sorbet, sweet sorbet, which is a new in color, and then the Parakeet Party and Daffodil Delight. These were the Stampin' Up markers. So I felt that was a little, it was dark, which was nice, but I wanted to soften it up a bit. And that's why I decided to use the watercolor pencils, because that gives it a softer look. All right, almost done. Clean that off. And then we'll do the early espresso on the stems. The watercolor blender pens, what are they called? Blender pens. These come in a pack of 3. And they're double-sided. All right. So there you go. Doesn't that look so pretty? I love it. And I'm going to add a little bit of Wink of Stella to make it sparkle a little. Make sure I'm pressing a little on this just so I get it started. And I'm just going to add it to the Melon Mambo to brighten that up. Just a little. Adds a little sparkle. I know you can't see it on the camera, but it's there. All right, now we can start putting the card together. So first I'm going to add this here with glue. And I put my mono liquid glue in this container. I just felt it was easier for me. And a demonstrator showed me a trick to keep a rubber band around the bottle so that it keeps this little cap nice and secure. Let me zoom out a little again. All right. Next, I want to put this white base on the black base. So I'll add a little glue here. what's nice about this bottle is that it doesn't add too much. Doesn't smush it around so much. And you just want to make sure that you have equal spacing all around, like so. Just want to make sure, yes, I did add dimensionals to that, so we'll add it with dimensionals. I think I can close this up. But before I do that, I want to add it ribbon to it. And I'm going to show you how I colored the ribbon. So I have basic white crinkle ribbon. I think that's what it's called. What's it called? Crinkled seam binding ribbon. With basic white, which I love this ribbon. I've got several rolls and I like to color it to match my project. So since I don't have all the Stampin' Blend markers, what I did is I used my Stampin' pad in Melon Mambo. I can get that open. I added a little ink on here on the block. I'll just show you quick. Let me cut this piece off, just so I don't add it to the rest. All right. Pardon the arm. And I took my blender pen, since I was using that, picked some up from the block. Let me turn this around so I don't get my fingers on it. And I just colored across it. And as this dries, and you don't even need that much, you can see I just added very little onto the blender pen. As this dries, it will lighten up, and it goes right through to the other side. Pretty cool, huh? What did I do with the cap? Here we go. And those pinks, those reds, excuse me, they do stain. So even if I clean that off, it won't, on the blender pen, it won't go onto my paper. All right, so, and see, is that pretty dry? It's probably still a little wet. Not too bad though. I think we can put it down. And it's probably rubbing off on my finger. All right, so I'm gonna put this down here. Just tie a nice bow. As we all know, when you're trying to tie a bow on camera, it just never works right. So I'll do my best. Don't watch too closely. Do it? Yes, we did. Okay, perfect. Oh, look at that. Doesn't that look pretty? Oh, it's so vibrant. All right, let me give that a little trim over here. And give it a little trim here. There we go. It gets backwards, but that's okay, right? Okay, now we can add this piece with dimensionals, and I just need them around here. I just want to make sure we have to see which way this was cut out. I think it was cut out like this, because you want to line it up to the flower. I think it was like this. Okay. How am I gonna do this? Where's my scissor? I think I'll use these narrow strips here and put them on here instead of going on the actual circle, because this way I know where I need to place them. Does that make sense? And you can curve these around. And these are just the edges of the Stampin' dimensionals. I never throw them out. I do use them because they're perfect for this sort of thing where you just need a narrow edge. And you can curve them. And really, I don't even need my scissor. They tear pretty easily. And a little bit more. I want another one of these narrow pieces here, so I'm going to cut this here. I'll put one down here, like so. I need to push this one in some. It's out too far. Oh, I forgot to take the backing off of this one. Like so. Now we'll add some dimensionals on the back of the card. I want to add a good amount, probably just a little overkill, but I want to make sure that I get the effect I'm looking for. I'm going to add a little bit of I don't have adhesive, I have this back here. I'm just adding a little tear and tape to the back of over my ribbon, just so it stays down. I'm not even removing the backing. Since I have the dimensionals, I'll just add this to the card front. Move some of this out of the way. Looking for that equal spacing without getting my head in the camera. And I should add a glue dot. There we go. Behind the ribbon, just so that stays in place also. I'm just going to grab one there. All right. That's it. There you go. Isn't that pretty? So soft. Now here's the one that I did previously where I did with the markers, so you can see the difference, how much softer the watercolor pencils are than the marker. It's, you know, different look. The left one is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. You might want the softer one, which is on the right. Perfect for watercolor month. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure you give me a thumbs up. It helps me grow my channel. If you're not a subscriber to my channel, I would love to have you subscribe. If you need any of the products that I showed here or any other products from Stampin' Up, please feel free to contact me. My website can be found in the description below the video. And to subscribe, click that notification bell, and every time I upload a video, you will be notified. Have a great day, guys. Thanks again for stopping by. Bye.